So, Dr. Don, how do you take someone? I mean, I know you have a lengthy 4 hour process, like you mentioned, but are there any quick things that people can do to pivot thoughts back to a more empowering thought?
It's very difficult if you don't get to the root of the trauma. Can you do it? Yes. But it's like painting over rust. So you can paint over it and it'll look good for a little while, but the rust will bubble up at some point. So the key is to really get to the true cause of what's creating that belief system. So what we're really doing in that 4-hour session is sanding it down, priming it, and then painting it. And then it sticks. Because as long as the mind is looping through that traumatic event, the belief system or the behavior that gets created from it is a code. It's just simply a code. The brain is constantly coding. So I always explain it this way. Think of the brain, the physical brain, is the computer. The mind is the software. So if I take my computer, the physical brain, and I drop it, I'm going to damage it, right? But software is prone to glitches and error messages, and that's coming in from coding. So if you've had experiences where you've taken losses, or just like you said, money doesn't grow on trees, those little things, your mind will build a code up because a child doesn't have enough life experience to understand what that term just meant. So they take it, especially in those early development years of the brain, they take that literally. And then that creates a belief system that I just can't do this on I'm just not going to make this grow. How can I make it grow? It doesn't grow on trees. Money doesn't grow on trees. So then that sets a formula for how to be successful. And it can create all kinds of issues and it'll show up because the parent may be trying to send an intentional good message, but because the child doesn't have enough life experience, they're going to put an interpretation on it. Do you ever play when you were kids, play that telephone game where you whisper in someone's ear, then they whisper in the other person's ear, and by the time it
Absolutely.
gets to the end, it's completely different, right?
Yes.
That's what it is to be a child. And so your parents said this, the intention may have been great, but then by the time your mind goes through this process of interpreting it, it comes out completely different. And there's where the issue comes in. So even with the best of intentions, a parent can do like this guy, his father's not trying to hurt his success. Obviously, the gentleman was very successful, but he had another gear. He just didn't know how to get to that gear. And so that's what I talk about is we all have another gear. How do we reach it? We get to the root of the issue that's interfering with that next level of performance.
Yeah, and I'm with you. There's when you talk about like peak performance, high performers, it seems like a lot of those folks are doing something differently than most other people. In your practice and in your business, Dr. Don, what do you see are some of the attributes of the peak performers?
They basically so that's what I wrote the second book about. I called it emotional concussions. So they'll show up in different ways, and the kinds of things to look for are, do you procrastinate? And so what I put in the book is here are the things that successful people don't do. So for example, procrastinate. Successful people won't procrastinate. Now that probably came in from fear.